Hey guys, I'm Mikey and welcome back to another episode of the Mikey D Sports Show. Baseball season is finally upon us, so there's no better time for me to talk about Rickey Henderson. Rickey is one of the greatest baseball players of all time. He is the record for most stolen bases, the record for most runs scored, and the record for most unintentional walks. On top of that, he was also a first ballot Baseball Hall of Famer in 2009. He also just so happens to be one of the craziest people to have ever lived on this planet. Let's take a look at some of the best Rickey Henderson stories from his playing days. Starting with the team he's most known for, the Oakland Athletics. In 1982, Rickey was offered a $1 million signing bonus to stay in Oakland, which he accepted. Come the end of the year, the accountants were all doing the math and found out that they were $1 million short of what they expected to have. That's a lot of money, so it was serious. The general manager ended up calling Rickey and asked him if he actually cashed a check. Rickey said no, because he framed it on the wall of his house. This wasn't the first or last time this happened. Our next story takes us about a decade and a half later to the late 90s when Rickey called San Diego manager Kevin Powers to his house and said, "This is Rickey calling on behalf of Rickey, and Rickey wants to play ball." The craziest part about this story is that it worked. Rickey signed with the San Diego Padres, where he recorded his 3,000th hit and broke Ty Cobb's all-time runs scored record. And yeah, Rickey used to refer to himself as Rickey. Our next story explains more on that. When he was with Seattle, Rickey once struck out to begin a game. On the way back to the dugout, he was rumored to have said, "It's okay, Rickey. Rickey's still the best. Rickey's got this." A Baseball Hall of Famer had to reassure himself that he was the best player that he could possibly be. A Hall of Famer. And no, I don't know why he called himself Rickey. I'm not even sure Rickey knows. Our next story takes us to Rickey's stop in Boston with the Red Sox, but actually a little after that. In 2004, the Red Sox won the World Series in 4 games over the Cardinals. Rickey then called the Red Sox front office and asked if him, a former Red Sox player, could get some tickets to Game 6 of the World Series at Fenway Park. A World Series game that could have never possibly happened. And our final story is a bit of a long one, but I assure you, it's the best. It requires context about a different player, John Olerud. Now, John Olerud had a brain aneurysm while playing baseball at Washington State, so in order to protect his head, he wore a batting helmet when he was in the field. Now, he was teammates with Rickey when they were both in Toronto. They even won a World Series there. About 12 years down the line, Rickey and Olerud were teammates again, this time in Boston, when Rickey noticed Olerud and said, "Hey, I played with a guy in Toronto that wore a batting helmet in first base, just like you did." And John Olerud said, "Yeah, Rickey, because that was me." He didn't recognize his teammate that he won a World Series with. And these are all true. Now, let's try something unique. We're going to ask some fans some questions, and they need to determine which of the 3 Rickey Henderson stories that I asked to them was false and which ones were true. Let's go see what they have to say. So we're here with Stuart, and we're going to ask you 3 questions about Rickey Henderson, all right? 3 stories. You tell me which one is false. 2 of them are true, okay? Okay. So story number 1 is the time that he didn't realize who his hitting coach was until he was fired. Okay. Story number 2 is the time he asked a teammate how long it would take for him to drive to the Dominican Republic. And story number 3 is the story where he didn't realize one of his teammates got sent down to the minor leagues until after he came back. So, which one do you think is false?
I'll take story 1.
Story 1, okay.
The one about his hitting coach.
Well, they're actually all true, all right? Back to you. We're talking about Rickey Henderson, great baseball player. Most stolen bases of all time. Most runs scored of all time. Craziest person of all time. All right, so here's the stories. 3 of them, 2 of them are true, 1 of them is false. So the first Rickey Henderson story is that he didn't realize that his hitting coach was fired until after he was fired. The second one is he asked a teammate how long it would take for him to drive to the Dominican Republic. And the third one is he didn't realize that his teammate got sent down to the minor leagues until after he came back. Which one do you think is false?
Is false?
Yeah.
The last one.
Well, they're actually all true. Rickey Henderson was just a crazy guy. Back to you. With Nino, legend from AHS Insider, the good news. So Nino, we're going to ask you a question today about Rickey Henderson, all right? Rickey Henderson, great baseball player. Most stolen bases of all time. Most runs scored in the history of the major leagues. First ballot Hall of Famer. Also just a real crazy guy.
Right.
So, I'm going to give you 3 stories about Rickey Henderson. 2 of them are true. 1 of them is false, all right? And your goal is to tell me which one is false. So, story number 1, the time he didn't realize who his team's hitting coach was until after he was fired. Story 2, the time he asked his teammate how long it would take him to drive to the Dominican Republic. And story 3, when he didn't realize one of his teammates was sent down to minor leagues until after he came back. Which one do you think is false?
Yeah, if I was a baseball player, I would do all of those things, so I think they're all right.
He's right. They're actually all true. So thanks for coming, Nino. Back to you.
Got you.
Thanks, everyone. And yes, let me assure you that all of those stories are true. Rickey Henderson was just that crazy. Now let's head over to the wall for today's stat of the day. So, as I mentioned before, Rickey Henderson was also a great baseball player, not just a quirky guy. In fact, he has the most stolen bases of all time by a wide margin. The gap between Rickey Henderson and Lou Brock, who's second all-time in steals, is the same as the gap between Lou Brock and Jimmy Rollins, who's 46th all-time in steals. That's it for today. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, and check out other episodes of this show and all the other shows we do here. Thanks for watching.